Welcome back to Doomsday Happy Hour. I'm your host, E.J. Peters. As you can see, I'm a little tired, also a lot hungover. Now, it happens to be that I haven't had alcohol since before I got pregnant with my daughter. But you should see what I did to this grape juice. I almost finished it off completely last night. Anyway, speaking of being pregnant, oh, look at this. First one that came out fully clothed. And speaking of toys, I think I've mentioned before that we try to pace toys so that our kids don't get too many at once, they don't become spoiled. But if you ever watch Toy Story, you know that toys need to be played with. And some of my son's trucks that he doesn't know about have been waiting to play with for a very long time. So I thought I would take care of the toys. So, first of all, these ones have been waiting for a very long time in their box. And I can't open the box, but we're gonna play with them. An excavator, which we also call a digger. Let's see if it rolls. Whoa. Baby, sorry. I think this is another kind of excavator digger. Whoa! Oh, it crashed. And this is just a flat digger. This is so cool. Oops. Cement mixer. Does it turn? It turns, and the door's open. Now I'm gonna have a hard time wrapping this one back up. I'm complaining it was new and used, but whatever. I'll just start playing with all his toys first. You won't know the difference. Ta-da! Oh, you turn it like this. Wow. And press on roof. Okay, so everything except for the lights and sounds work. It's broken. There we go. So somebody decided that he wanted a garbage truck. So I got him every garbage truck I wanted, which are none of these. On top of that, we have a dump truck, a crane, a garbage truck, and a fire truck. Now, it's really important to get a crane and a fire truck because he keeps calling his fire truck a crane now because he's obsessed with cranes, and they're not the same, so I had to get him both so he would know what the difference was. And plus, he needs a garbage truck. And then obviously, when you get one kid that many toys, you gotta get the other one some. So she doesn't feel left out. And as me throwing the doll probably suggested, she doesn't do dolls. She does trucks. She does whatever he does. So here, for her, another cement mixer, but this one doesn't seem to turn. That's a disappointment. Oh wait, maybe it does. Maybe it does. Maybe it lights up. I don't know. A street sweeper. This one's cool. And then, in case you were thinking about planting seeds, boom. And that's my Monday morning for you. Anyway, if you want to talk about real games and playing games that will help get you ahead, join me for my interview with Ellen Leikind, founder and CEO of Poker Divas. She uses poker for team building and shows you how you can use it to get ahead, all without gambling. But she's a senior marketing executive while running Poker Divas. She'll tell you all about the juggling act that involves for her. Ellen Leikind, thank you so much for joining me on Doomsday Happy Hour.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Ellen, I know of you as the CEO and founder of Poker Divas. Most people don't start their careers founding a company, and that's actually not where you began yours. You actually have an MBA in marketing, and you spent a full career to date as a senior marketing executive. You were at Fortune 500 companies where you launched over $1 billion worth of health and beauty products.
and you continue in marketing as you are running Poker Divas. So through Poker Divas, you're teaching leadership, negotiation, and team building skills.
Yes.
Which to my mind, particularly to the extent that you focus on women, and women are kind of shut out of a lot of things like, you know, the golf course with the boys club, you're starting almost like a mini revolution here. And on the other hand, you're continuing to do your work as a marketing executive.
I like that you think that you're starting a revolution.
Not an armed one, but yes. So you are what one of my most recent guests describes as a hybrid entrepreneur. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your trajectory?
I never heard that, hybrid entrepreneur. I like that. You know, I started my career in marketing. I was born and bred to be a marketer, and my dad was a marketer. We sat and talked about product over dinner my entire life growing up. We went to stores doing store checks after dinner to check on the price of the competition.
I love that.
Right?
I love that he took his little girl. I love that.
And it was liquor, so we're going to liquor stores. But anyway, so that's what I was meant to do, and I love doing it. And I've worked for some, you know, big Fortune 500 companies. I've launched some brands, and I love marketing. It's in my blood. But I also like innovation, and I like stepping out of the ordinary and doing something different. And when I, you know, I loved working in corporate America until one day I didn't. So I took a break and I started, you know, taking all these different courses to see what I wanted to do with the next phase of my career. And then I started playing poker recreationally. I actually found a game, if you can believe this, on Craigslist. I knew no women that knew how to play, and so I went on Craigslist, if you can believe that, and it took me 6 months to have the confidence to show up. I had some free time, and I started playing poker recreationally, and then I went from working from a big company to going to work for an entrepreneur in an infomercial company.
Got it.
I learned very quickly that even though I was doing the same things, I had a very different audience. So, you know, in a corporation, if somebody says, you know, do some research on the category, you come in with a 90-page presentation, they think you're a genius. Right? I mean, they love that.
I would like shit myself.
Well, that's what I learned. I went to present a similar presentation to the entrepreneur, and by the time I got to page 3, they were like, okay, so what are you going to do for me? Poker's a lot like that. So poker's a lot, you better mix up your game based on who you're playing with. You better know your audience. You better know the players at the table. So that was, you know, one little thing that thinks, yeah, maybe there's some correlation between poker and business. And then I got invited to this PR event for a new company, a startup company. And a friend of mine said, do you want to go to this startup poker tournament? And I said, sure. And I walk in, there's 80 men and 5 women.
Aye.
Right? I mean, what does that sound like? And then I think,
wow,
this is golf all over again. Where are the women?
I was going to say, it sounds about as bad as the golf course.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And I thought, you know, there's women have to get into the game. I saw how when I worked in a corporation, there was a sales meeting and all the men were playing golf and all the women were in the spas, and, you know, who was getting promoted? The men were getting promoted. So women weren't getting promoted because they weren't included. They weren't included in this club, so to speak, which really was the boys' club at the time.
Yes.
I mean, let's call it what it was. And so that inspired me and said, you know, I'm going to start a company, Poker for Professional Women. And I sent out a mailing, and Allure magazine was my first client. And and I really didn't know what I was doing, honestly. I remember we sat in their boardroom, there were 12 seats. I did everything. I was the speaker, I was the dealer, I did everything. You know, it was
Did the house win?
No, actually one of the editors won, which was good. And by the way, there's no gambling in Poker Divas. It was just fun, and over the years it got bigger and bigger and bigger because women loved the fact that they were invited to the table.
Right.
From a networking perspective, it's really fantastic. So going from corporate to entrepreneurship was a big jump. And honestly, starting Poker Divas really I was able to do that because I worked for an entrepreneur in the middle. I think going from corporate, for anybody who's thinking about leaving their corporate job and being an entrepreneur, you know, it's a big transition. I mean, you're less money, less people, less resources. You're it at the beginning, you know, unless you're fortunate enough to get funding.
I think that's a great point. You are it at the beginning.
You're it. And I wouldn't have known that had I not worked for an entrepreneur in the middle. Of course, you miss certain things, but you know, it allows you to be creative, innovative, and really do your own thing. And if that works for you, then it's very rewarding. But now is a really good time, even if you're working, even if you're working, to have like something on the side, something on the
Yes.
side that you like, because you just don't know when you're going to be the one impacted and you're going to need that. Right,
That's
right?
a terrific point. And part of the reason, honestly, I started this show was because I thought that, you know, my fourth guest in season 1 was a freelancer. And I thought, you know, some people, before they can get reemployed, assuming their jobs are not gone for good,
Yeah.
they're going to have to potentially kind of freelance it before, you know, the market picks up. Some people are going to say, you know, I got laid off. And I had a side hustle. This is the perfect opportunity to turn my side hustle that was growing into my full-time thing.
Yeah.
And other people are going to see, you know, I still have a job, or maybe I don't have a job and there's this thing that I wanted to start, but maybe it's worthwhile, again, as you said, to think about branching out and do a second thing so that your eggs aren't all in one basket, and you also get the fulfillment of doing something you're passionate about.
It's more acceptable now. When I first started working for somebody and I had a side hustle, I didn't tell anybody. But I think now I see people in big law firms, in big finance firms, that they have a side hustle that everyone knows about. And
what is the most interesting side hustle? Because I always picture, I'm a former lawyer, and I always picture lawyers being very straight-laced. I mean, I look to my parents, and one in particular is more straight-laced than the other, but I always think of lawyers being straight-laced. So like, I don't think of them as being like the biggest innovator. So what's one of the most innovative things, somebody who's still practicing law?
Well, I didn't think so either. And there's two I can think of. One started an in-home beauty business, sort of like, what is it, Glam Squad? Similar to that. And the other one started a wine testing program.
Ooh,
so I
that
thought
sounds fun.
both of that, and they're actually using wine as wine tasting as a learning and development tool. So
a little bit like Poker Divas, but
drinking. So I thought that, and it's not like it's a secret. It's well out in the open, and I think that's great, because I think you've got to be realistic. It's not, you know, people don't stay at companies for 20, 30 years anymore. And I think that those days are gone forever. You look at resumes. I mean, you know from recruiting that you look at resumes, people maybe stay 18 months and they're off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially in technology, younger people. I'm amazed. It's really interesting to see the movement now. It's very different. Yeah,
I think it's industry specific, you know, how long you have to stay to have stayed like the minimum good amount of time. So I'm not a poker player. I know blackjack. I think that as far as, you know, any kind of future focus on cards goes, my next focus is probably go fish. But I have a deck of cards here.
Oh, let's see.
And I was thinking maybe you could, you know, show me the basics.
Okay, all right. Let's see the cards.
Okay, so here's my deck.
Okay, all right. Let's see.
Do you see any problem playing poker with these cards?
Well, you know, it's funny that you asked that, because when we do the educational part, it's learning and development, so it's strategy and business and how to be a better leader and negotiator, but we also have a section where we teach you how to play, and we hold up these really big cards with the hands of poker, so that's what those remind me of. So they fit right in.
Do you have whales and seahorses on yours?
Oh, those I haven't seen. No, we don't. No, I haven't seen the whale and seahorse. Can you make a full house with that?
Right. So all joking aside, Poker Divas has a variety of programs.
Yeah.
I know you have one devoted to corporate team building.
Yeah.
Which personally I find very interesting, because first of all, I always thought like poker, you had to be live. Like, but secondly, as far as games go, poker seemed like, you know, the equivalent of singles tennis. And like, I knew that there was at least one option, bridge, where at least it was like doubles tennis, right? Mm-hmm. So as far as team building goes, you know, unless we're talking about the royal we, I didn't see how you could use it necessarily for team building. But so you have team building, you have diversity and inclusion program, you have a women's initiative program.
Yeah.
Tell me is there a common underlying thread that helps poker teach all these skills, and what does it mean to teach team building in an individualized game?
Really good question. And we thought a lot about that. When you learn something new together, even if you're competitive, it brings you closer. And that's a really important lesson to learn. You can be competitive and still be friendly. And I think women have more trouble with that than men. You know, you always see on TV the guys, you know, they beat each other up in the street and then they go out for a beer.
That's a great example, yeah.
You always see that in the movies. You know, women, tend to be more like, oh, to take it more on a personal level. And I think that learning to be competitive and still be friendly and connect, I think that's a very big important skill for everybody. And that's the team element. So here you are, you're putting, in when we're live, it's different than when we're virtual, but you still get that connection. We have a virtual poker table where you can see each other and speak, and we have a Zoom where we send you into breakout rooms so you can connect. But when you're learning something new together, you connect. And when you're invited to an event like a poker tournament that women are not invited to the poker table, you connect because you're coming out of your comfort zone together, and then you compete. So that's the team.
That is a terrific way of putting it. I think that is just, and actually, I mean, I've been publishing a little bit about, women and women's advancement in, the workforce and just the overall picture. And so one of the things that always strikes me is, from my recruiting background, I remember one person in particular. It was a woman telling me that one of the heads of, the group that she reported into was also a woman and was really catty and really disliked. She was fine with single women, but if a woman got married, that woman got inferior treatment. And if the woman got married and had kids, and that woman was going to get, relegated to like the back room. And I wasn't sure if it was jealousy or whatever, but I've just heard a lot of different stories about cattiness. I personally, I take a lot of offense when people describe women as like aggressive and annoying, but the same quality in a man would be, a demonstration of leadership and assertiveness in a positive way. But I do think that there is this element of competition where we don't come together and coalesce after the competition as well as the men do sometimes.
That's true. And I agree with you.
So I love the fact that you're kind of, like they say, a rising tide floats all boats. And if we can support one another, it doesn't mean that all of our competitiveness needs to go away. But coming together at the end, I think, we can stand on each other's shoulders more and have this, improved network that can help us succeed in the way that the men's networks and boys clubs help them succeed.
I agree with you. And the networking aspect of it really cannot be overlooked because it is a very good way, other than, you'd even pre-COVID, to stand around and drink with people and have to sort of work the room. Here you are, you've got 9 people you're already sitting, connecting with over something new. If you're an introvert, you don't have to say that much. Right. If you're a chatter, you can chat away. The poker table is a great equalizer. You can put, a CEO next to an intern, which we've done. You can put a beginner next to an expert, which we've done. And, everybody starts with the same chip stack, the same deck of cards, the same dealer, or in case of internet, auto deal. But it's a tremendous equalizer, and that networking component of it is really very, very important now. I mean, this group that we have on Fridays, half of them would never have met if it wasn't for this game. They're very different people, but I think they like the networking now even more than the game.
So now, if I had to guess, and I had brought a real deck of cards as opposed to my son's learning to count flashcards, I'm guessing it would be very difficult still for us to play poker because, the whole point is to draw from one deck and, guess what's left and, who has the better hand and whatever. And if we both have full decks.
I'm going to give you a quick poker lesson. That's not the case. That's the poker you see in the movies, in the old movies where they're drawing and everything. When you play Texas Hold'em, everybody gets dealt 2 cards, and there are 5 community cards on the table that belong to everybody, so you don't have to memorize cards.
But how do you have the same 3 cards on the table if you're using your own deck?
I'm going to tell you. There are a lot of poker platforms out there. They have automatic dealing, so you get dealt your 2 cards automatically from a machine, and then everybody sees this. You can either do it as a Zoom, but we have a better platform where you don't even need Zoom. We send you a link, you come on, and you can see everybody's head in a bubble. And then you play the game. And it's automatically dealt. You see only your cards. Everybody sees the community cards. And it's fabulous.
This.
Yeah, it's fabulous. So
it's actually, from a networking perspective, if you wanted to build client relationships now, because before you could only meet in person, but now if you want to build international ones.
That's right.
That is amazing.
And we have a few international players. Yep. That's
Oh
exactly
my
right.
gosh.
It opens up, as bad as this is, and this is a terrible time in many ways, there are some good things that will come out of it. And for us, as much as, this has really destroyed our business initially. And now we have developed it. It's virtual. And, it's been a process, and it's a painful process, but I think to the point you just made, it opens it up to a lot more people.
I have people that I have to run and tell about this.
We'd love to meet
Wow.
them. We'd love to meet them.
Virtually, yes. And then hopefully at some point in person we can go out again.
Yeah. I mean, the Poker Divas was a global program before the pandemic, but it's a lot of time to travel somewhere, come back, it's staff.
Right.
This is really very turnkey.
So I have to ask you one question, and I know I can't ask you what it is, but do you have a tell?
I do.
Don't tell me what it is, because if any of your competitors are watching.
I'm sure I have more than one, but it's interesting you ask that, because actually I'm better playing online for that reason, because I'm not worried about people looking at me. I'm just looking at the cards. Like, I can't read them, which makes it more difficult, but I find myself to be a much more aggressive player online than in person for that reason.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now my last question. Obviously, you're juggling a lot of responsibilities. As we've discussed already, you're a hybrid entrepreneur, which means you have your regular job and you have running your business. And on top of that, obviously, we've talked about the fact that you've had to retool your business while taking care of, whatever the normal, bookkeeping, whatever, and being an employee somewhere else. So tell me, as a hybrid entrepreneur, what does your day an average day or week look like? And maybe give me an example of, pre-COVID and then now post-COVID, to the extent that COVID has, dramatically changed that.
So just to clarify, Poker Divas is the bulk of my attention right now,
Right.
and the marketing is I'm doing that on a consulting basis. So I have freedom there to take what I can at any given time. So I'm not totally over.
So you ramp up or ramp down as you see fit.
Yes, and I've ramped that down and this up because Poker Divas relied 100% on the virtual on the in-person experience, and now it's virtual.
On you.
And me. It's very reliant on me.
So the whole platform went away, and you had to be the one to step in to change that, to rebuild it. It wasn't going to be like, your assistant.
Right. That's correct. That's correct. So been doing that.
And your baby needed you is what you're basically saying. Like, your baby needed you to continue to survive.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It needs to survive. And I think it's going to be better. It's going to be better.
Oh, it sounds like it, because eventually you'll have remote and in person.
That's right. That's right. And I think that, believe it or not, a lot of people are less intimidated by it remotely, because
including you, because your tell.
That's exactly right. So I focus, I have spent a lot of time in like everybody else on Zoom calls talking to people about, I've had to up my tech skills tremendously. And I think it's important that you have to partner with people more, because everybody, from a resource standpoint, you really just have to be get together with people, which we've done, and reaching out to people who know you is one thing, and showing them what you're doing now is really important, and being out there and visible and present, and be willing to work with people. Budgets are an issue right now for some not.
Right.
A lot of the tech companies weren't hit from this. A lot of the consumer retail companies weren't hit. Some were, some weren't. Consumer products, I mean. So we look at it on a industry by industry basis, but it really has allowed us to expand, and it'll continue. Every week something new comes along. Like something gets better from a tech perspective or from a program perspective. And it's just you have to be open, regardless of what you're doing. And I'm not saying this is not a hard time. I'm not minimizing the
Of course. No, not at all. Right.
World, I'm not minimizing that. Believe me, it's not a picnic for anybody. But it's just you have to look at it and say there are some opportunities here, and it forces you to do things. I have an online. It forces
you to be creative and inventive and zig or zag.
Exactly, and we're going to offer an on-demand online course too. where you don't need to see any of us, but we're gonna give you some training both at the poker table and at the conference table. It's gonna be.
So if we don't see you, are you gonna be in your pajamas?
Yeah, I'm gonna be in my, at least from the waist down. I have to say, I do miss putting on a nice outfit and going out.
Ellen, thank you so much for joining me. This was such a pleasure.
Oh, it was great to meet you. Thanks for having me, and look forward to seeing you again. And I hope to see anybody out there if you want to check out pokerdivas.com.
Absolutely.
Please check it out and feel free to reach out to me or anybody, and we'd love to see you at the table.